Welcome back to another episode of Just for the Tech of It. I am your host, Drew Prindle, and I'm here to bring you all of the weird and wild tech news that you probably missed this week. First up, let's talk about maggots. So, when you think of modern medicine, maggots probably aren't the first thing that come to mind. But if a team of bioengineers from North Carolina State University have their way, that might soon change. The team has developed a new technique that uses genetically modified maggots to heal wounds faster than ever before. Alright, let me back up and give you a quick history lesson. You might not realize it, but up until recently, it was not unusual for people to clean wounds by applying fly larvae, otherwise known as maggots, to the affected area. These little grubs devour dead flesh and leave healthy tissue intact, and also excrete an antimicrobial juice along the way, which makes them a gross but undeniably effective way to treat large open wounds. So to give this technique a modern update, scientists at NC State took green bottlefly larvae and tweaked their genetic code so that instead of excreting an antimicrobial factor, the maggots produced a growth factor that accelerates the healing process. You better just quit while you're ahead on this one, NC State. It's a brilliant idea, but I don't think it's ever going to catch on. I don't know about you, but if I've got to choose between maggots and band-aids, I'm going to choose band-aids every time. I know this whole maggot method was a common practice hundreds of years ago, but you can't just take something that used to be popular, give it a modern update, and then expect it to suddenly become popular again. It doesn't work like that. Just look at Vanilla Ice's career. Ice, baby. All right, moving on, let's talk about space. So earlier this week, NASA launched a rocket into orbit as part of a resupply mission for the International Space Station. This happens fairly often, so it's not always a big deal, but on this particular launch, the rocket was carrying something special. It was carrying a 3D printer that can fabricate objects in zero gravity. Now, truth be told, this isn't the first printer we've ever sent to the ISS, but this new and improved version is much more capable than the one we sent up in 2014, and it's going to completely change how we send things to space. Now that the ISS crew has this printer installed, NASA doesn't have to spend millions of dollars just to launch specific parts and tools up to the space station. Moving forward, we can just send the ISS a steady supply of printing material, and then whenever an astronaut needs a wrench or a fastener or a knob or something, NASA can just beam the design file up to the printer and then fabricate it right there on board. For the time being, however, the machine is limited to plastic parts. It can't print you a beer or a margarita or anything like that, so for the time being, you poor bastards on the ISS will have to keep drinking recycled pee. Alright, last but not least, let's talk about CRISPR. So even if you've been living under a rock for the past 2 years, by now you've probably heard of this revolutionary new gene editing technique called CRISPR-Cas9. Normally when you hear about it, it's described as a tool for eliminating genetic diseases or maybe splicing together bits of DNA from two different places. But this week, scientists from Temple University have taken it in a completely new route. They actually used CRISPR to edit HIV genes out of human immune cells. This is huge news, because retroviruses, like HIV, are super difficult to treat. Unlike regular viruses, retroviruses insert copies of their genomes into host cells in order to replicate, which sucks because it means that as soon as you stop taking antiretroviral HIV drugs, the virus reasserts itself and weakens your immune system even further, which usually triggers the onset of AIDS. That's what makes this new CRISPR treatment so revolutionary. Not only does this new HIV gene editing technique remove the viral DNA, it actually removes it permanently and prevents the HIV from reinfecting the host. Obviously, this is a huge win in the fight against HIV and AIDS, but what's really exciting is that this same technique could potentially be modified and used to eradicate all kinds of different diseases, like HPV, herpes, and hopefully tone-deaf people that try to sing karaoke. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way! Alright, that does it for this week, but be sure to tune in next week for more weird and wild tech news.